Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ashley Brown, and I'll be presenting today's webinar. And joining us today to moderate is Miss Dina Palmer. We are both your Okie 811 Member Relations Specialist. Before we get into today's webinar, we do want to cover a few housekeeping items. First, this is an informal presentation, so feel free to submit your questions at any time during the presentation. You can use the Q&A feature or the chat session, or excuse me, you can use the Q&A feature or the chat feature to submit your questions, and we're going to have that Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. We also would love your feedback, so please go ahead and grab your phone and follow this QR code. It's going to take you to our webinar feedback form. If more than 50% of today's attendees provide feedback, then they will all be entered into a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. If you don't win, don't worry, because you'll have another chance during all of the live webinars that we put on for the rest of the year. And if you can't follow the QR code, we will also be providing a link to that webinar form in the chat as well. And we'll show the code and send the link again after the presentation before we answer questions at the end of the webinar today. Alrighty, so Dina has included that link in the chat, so we're going to go ahead and press on. For today, we're going to be talking about different changes that are coming to Okie 811 starting November 1st, 2024. We'll be talking about the Watch and Protect positive response, different support updates that'll be happening for some of the ticket formats. And then we have a new ticket type called the pre-excavation meeting request. And we'll also be talking about some cost saving tips for members. So let's jump right in and we'll talk about the Watch and Protect positive response. So starting November 1st, 2024, the critical facility / in conflict positive response is going to be relabeled to Watch and Protect. So the only thing that's happening is a name change with this particular thing that's happening November 1st. It will require the same things. So it has the same definition, just like right now, the critical facility means that you're choosing this positive response because you're saying that an owner or operator must be present during the excavation to identify the facility or to monitor excavation. The Watch and Protect is going to mean the same thing. Also, you'll keep the same action like you do with the critical facility. If you choose Watch and Protect, it means that you are going to have a designated representative on site to observe the excavation, and you'll also be providing the name and contact information for that representative in the comment sections of the positive response. So if you choose the Watch and Protect positive response, it means you want someone to be on site, and in that positive response, you'll use the comment section to indicate the name and the contact information for the representative that's going to be on site. For more information about Watch and Protect, you can reference the law, which is found at okie811.org. So the next change is a bit more substantial, and it's a change to the support that's going to be provided for XML and plain text ticket formats. Before we even begin, I'm going to say that most members receive their tickets via the regular default email. Okay, and I'll show you a way where you can check how you receive your tickets. So with this support change, we're going to begin exclusively maintaining and enhancing supported ticket formats. So the current supported ticket formats include the email, which is what most members use, and then we have a supported plain text format and two supported XML formats. Starting November 1st, certain XML, plain text, and parsing formats that you may be currently using will be considered legacy. So at that point, there's going to be no more technical updates to those legacy formats. Now, the reason for this change is that over the years, we've had numerous requests to make custom customizations to all of these different formats, and it's resulted in a long list of different XML, plain text, and parsing formats. So the supported XML, plain text, and parsing formats will encompass all of these customizations, and it helps to make sure that they get maintained and can receive troubleshooting. So you may be wondering, Ashley, you just gave me a lot of information. How do I know if I'm one of these people that have a supported or a legacy format? That is a great question. The way you can tell is by logging into the Oki 811 portal. You'll select the membership info tab and then choose your dispatch code from the drop-down menu on the left. Here is an example of the output section that a member may have. Okay, and it's possible for you to have multiple outputs. Outputs are the way that you receive your locate request. If an output has the word legacy in the format line of the output description, then you know that that particular output is a legacy format. So with this example, we see that the first two outputs at the top, their default email and their emergency short notice calls, they are supported formats. But this last XML format that this particular member has is a legacy format. And we know because we can see the word legacy in the format line that's in the output description. Before we move on, I do want to say that legacy formats and everyone else will continue to receive tickets after November 1st. Okay. So what does this look like for my company? If you use supported ticket formats such as the default email or the two XML formats or the one plain text format, if you use those, you're going to continue to receive your tickets and notifications, okay? The only thing that's going to be different for you after November 1st is that if you happen to receive a pre-excavation meeting request, you're going to notice a new field that captures the proposed project to begin date, okay? It'll actually be a new field that's on the ticket. So let's say you have went to the membership info viewer, you've checked your dispatch code, and you notice that some of your one or more of your outputs has the word legacy in the format line. And you say, hey, Ashley told me that that means that this is a legacy format. What does that mean for my company? Again, you're going to continue to receive your locate request after November 1st, okay? If your company uses a legacy format after November 1st and you happen to get a pre-excavation meeting request instead of the proposed begin date being in the new field, everything is going to be in the remarks. Okay. Now, legacy formats will no longer receive technical support and format updates, and eventually they are going to be sunset. Oki 811 will send advanced communications before the sunsetting begins. And you do have the option to update from a legacy format to a supported format. You can do that before November 1st or even after. For more information, be sure to contact member services. But before we move on, I do want to reiterate that if you have a legacy format, and you know you have a legacy format because you see the word legacy in the output description, when you check in the membership info tab. If you have a legacy format, you will continue to receive your tickets and notifications after November 1st, and you will be notified in advance communications before sunsetting begins. So I've mentioned it a couple of times. Let's talk about this pre-excavation meeting request and the member responsibilities. So just coming straight from the law, and this can be found on the law page at oki811.org, the pre-excavation meeting request is a request notice to the underground facility operators to participate in a meeting for the purpose of planning large projects and coordinating resources accordingly. So what does that mean? A pre-excavation meeting request is a request from the excavator to facilitate communication between the excavator and the facility operator to hopefully coordinate a marking plan for a large project. These requests are for large projects. You're not going to just start receiving an onslaught of pre-excavation meeting requests for every locate request. It's specifically for large projects, and it is optional. Even if an excavator is submitting a large project, they may choose to not use a pre-excavation meeting request. So it may be a while before your company receives one, if ever. If the excavator does submit a request, a pre-excavation meeting request, it must be no sooner than 14 calendar days before the excavation begins. And the request is going to include the excavator's contact information, the excavator's proposed meeting details, and the meeting date must be a minimum of 72 hours after the notice has been submitted. So if they submit a pre-excavation meeting request, it has to be no less than 14 days before the work is set to begin, and the meeting must be proposed for no sooner than 72 hours after the request has been submitted. So let's take a look at an example. Starting at the top, when you receive a pre-excavation meeting request, if your company does receive one, it is going to indicate that it is a pre-excavation meeting request. You'll see that. Then it'll have the excavator contact information, details about where the work is, and information about the locate instructions and the proposed meeting details, which includes the date, time, and place of the proposed meeting. And that proposed meeting can be in person or online. Now, you may notice that I keep saying proposed meeting, and that is because this is a request. Now, it's a request, but members do still need to provide a positive response via the portal to these pre-excavation meeting requests, and you have 72 hours to do so. OKI 811 has created two new positive response codes that are specifically used for responding to a pre-excavation meeting request, and they are number 16, which says the operator will be attending the pre-excavation meeting, or number 17, saying that the operator will not be attending to the pre-excavation meeting. Remember that these positive response codes are used exclusively for responding to a pre-excavation meeting request, meaning that if you get another ticket type and you try to use 16 or 17, let's say, for example, for a normal locate request, it's not going to accept that. This is just for pre-excavation meeting request. And we'd encourage you to use the comments portion of your positive response to provide contact information and details which support your response. So let's say you choose number 16 that you will be attending the meeting. You may leave the name and contact information for the person who's attending in the comments portion. If you're not going to be attending the meeting, you may choose number 17, and then in the comments, you could indicate maybe why you're not attending the meeting or the contact information for the person who the excavator can reach out to arrange another time. So before we move on, let's go over some highlights that are just about the pre-excavation meeting request. Remember, this is optional for the excavator to submit, and it is just relating to large projects. It won't be for your regular ticket types. It's used so that the excavators and the facility operators can come together and coordinate a marking schedule for large projects. These requests would be submitted no sooner than 14 days before excavation begins, and the proposed meeting itself must be at least 72 hours after this request has been submitted. The member or facility operator does need to provide a positive response within 72 hours, indicating if they will or will not attend the meeting. And remember that we have those two new positive response codes to indicate if you will or will not be attending the pre-excavation meeting. Alrighty, so with the November 1 changes, we do want to take advantage of the fact that we're presenting a webinar and November is coming up fast. November also equals annual billing time. So we do want to offer some cost saving tips and reminders before we wrap up this November 1st changes webinar. First thing is, please remember that as we've communicated numerous times and on every webinar since this change has happened, back in 2023, in an effort to more fairly distribute the cost, the board of Oki 811 voted on some significant modifications to the fee schedule. And there are changes to the membership fees and premium service fees. This fee schedule is already in effect. We are in this fee schedule right now. And you'll see these charges on the annual billing invoice that you receive in November of 2024. When you are reviewing your membership, be sure that you consider your operational practices and make sure that your dispatch information, your mapping, your outputs, and how you provide your positive response, make sure all of that fits into your operational needs and helps you remain in compliance with the law. The number one way that you can save cost is by ensuring that your mapping is accurate to make sure that you receive relevant tickets. You also want to be taking a look at your additional outputs. The additional output fee did increase from $120 per additional output to $180 per additional output. So make sure that you only have that additional outputs that you need and want, and that those outputs are going to the correct personnel. You want to make sure that the information in each output is correct so that we can be sure that the locate requests are going to the correct personnel and those people can provide accurate, on-time positive responses. The positive responses help to reduce damage and injury, obviously, but they also can minimize the amount of second and third notices that your company receives. Remember that second and third notices incur additional fees. So for every second notice, you are charged for the ticket fee itself plus an additional $2. For every third notice, you're charged for the ticket itself and then an additional $3. No company is exempt from the second and third notice fees. Okay. So going back to the November 1st, 2024 reminders, remember that the critical facility, that name is just changing. It's going to be relabeled Watch and Protect. So you'll see that when you're providing your positive responses. Remember that starting November 1st, 2024, Oki 811 will no longer make those technical updates to certain legacy XML and plain text and parsing formats that you may be currently using. The currently supported formats are the default email, and that is the most used format. Then we have two XML formats and one plain text format that is supported and will continue to be supported. You can use the membership info viewer of the Oki 811 portal to see if you're using a legacy format. And remember, you're going to know that it's legacy because you'll see the word legacy in the format line of the output description. Legacy formats will still continue to receive tickets and other notifications after November 1st, 2024, but they will eventually be sunset. And Oki 811 will be sure to provide communication before that sunsetting begins. If you'd like to update from from a legacy format to a supported format, be sure to contact Member Services and we'd be happy to help. We do have a pre-excavation meeting request that's going to be available starting November 1st, 2024. This is a optional request that an excavator may use to coordinate the marking plan for large projects. You do have 72 hours to positively respond to that request, and it is your choice whether you attend or not, but be sure that you're providing that positive response stating so. We have two new positive response codes that are available to give you that option to say whether you're going to be attending or not. And we'd encourage you to utilize the comment section to provide contact information and details that support your response. Before we dive into the questions, once again, we'd like to remind you that we love to hear your feedback. If you didn't get a chance to before, go ahead and grab your phone so you can follow the QR code for the webinar feedback form. Just a reminder, more than 50% of today's attendees provide that feedback, they will all be entered into a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. And if you don't win, don't worry because we will be doing this drawing for all live webinars for the rest of 2024. Before I dive into or before I turn over to Dina to see if we had any questions, I do just want to mention that I noticed a couple of times and throughout today we've been asked if this webinar is going to be replayed. It's not going to be replayed, but it will be uploaded to the Oki 811 YouTube channel. So be sure to check back later this week and next week at Oki 811's YouTube channel, and we will be sure that this webinar is posted so you can share that with different people in your organization. All right, Dina, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do we have any questions?
Ashley, we did not have any questions today.
Alrighty, if you all can think of any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Access that member portal at dig.oki811.org. Log into the membership info viewer. Check your dispatch code on the left, select that dispatch code on the left, and look at your outputs and review and see if you have any legacy formats. If you have any questions about that, reach out to member services at memberservices@oki811.org. You can also contact us if you have any other questions about your membership. If you think of any questions for future webinar topics, our education and outreach department would love to hear from you at education@oki811.org. And if you have questions about your mapping because you want to be sure that you're receiving relevant tickets and saving money, reach out to our GIS department at gis@oki811.org, and they are more than happy to help. We want to thank you so much for attending today's webinar. We appreciate each and every one of you. Please stay safe and have a great rest of your day.